Sports. He's a contributor for the Arrowhead Pride podcast, and he writes about everything Kansas City Chiefs related. Been writing for the last 3 years. Can find his work at arrowheadpride.com. He is Bryce Carter. What's up, Bryce?
Hey man, how's it going? Thanks for having me on.
Pretty good, man. I appreciate you coming on this afternoon. And let's get right to it, Price. It's the Super Bowl 57 matchup between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. It's Patrick Mahomes versus Jalen Hurts. Let's start off with the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, last night he was named the NFL MVP. The man had 41 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He completed like 67% of his passes this year, over 5,000 passing yards. So going into the Super Bowl, just now winning his second NFL MVP trophy, what do you think it would mean for Patrick Mahomes to add another Super Bowl championship on his resume?
Yeah, I think this season has been about a lot for Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. To me, a big point that I've hit home along all year is that the Chiefs had to answer one last question here about Patrick Mahomes, and that is, can he elevate lesser talent? When he came into the league with Kareem Hunt, Travis Kelce, Tyreek Hill, Sammy Watkins, had the best offensive system in the NFL.
Yeah.
Of course he was going to be the MVP if he was competent. And as time has gone on, those weapons have went away and they traded away Tyreek Hill. And this year he went out and won MVP. Long term, I think that's about as good of an outcome that they could have had for the Chiefs. They know what Patrick Mahomes is and that he can elevate lesser talent. And when you're talking about what does adding another Super Bowl ring to his hand do, I think you're looking at, being able to keep pace with some of the all-time greats. The two Super Bowl winning quarterback club is already an elite club, and with what he's done statistically in the season, regular season as well, I think that keeps him on pace for your Tom Brady's, your Peyton Manning's, that kind of upper echelon of quarterbacks. Additionally, I think that this one means even more to them because 2019, you're talking about the rookie quarterback contract there. He was surrounded by weapons. They were all in at that time. This is the season that a lot of people picked the Bills to win the Super Bowl. This was their all in year. And this is kind of the Chiefs stealing someone else's Super Bowl. This happens a lot. You see it. In 2019, when the Chiefs won, it was the Ravens. That was Lamar Jackson's unanimous MVP year. A lot of people saw the Ravens as the favorite, and the Chiefs snuck in there and stole it away from them. And this is another opportunity for them to do that. And most of all, when you get this close, it's really hard to get here. We've seen injuries and all these other storylines crop up that have made it difficult for the Chiefs to get here. You want to finish. So to get another ring on his hand, to, be the first MVP and Super Bowl champion since 1999, I think Kurt Warner was the last person to do it. That's something really special. So, and I know that they want to get another one for Andy Reid too.
Yeah, and it's crazy, Price, because I think Mahomes is motivated because coming into the season, the Bengals won the AFC last year. They beat Patrick Mahomes twice last season. And a lot of people picked the Bengals to get back to the Super Bowl. Some people picked the Buffalo Bills to get back to the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs, they trade away Tyreek Hill, one of the best receivers in the NFL. And everyone was asking the question, how good is Patrick Mahomes going to be without Tyreek Hill? And I think this year he has answered all those questions and then some, Price. And now he has his team in a position to win another Super Bowl. And honestly, when I look at the Chiefs roster, Price, for me, this is just me, I think you can make an argument that the Bengals and the Eagles and maybe even the 49ers have a better roster from top to bottom, but the Chiefs got Patrick Mahomes. And that's the reason why they got a chance to win the Super Bowl. So that you say what?
Well, I say, when you're talking about the point that you're making about the other rosters, I definitely think that that's true. The Chiefs are just in a different era right now than some of these other rosters are. We went back to the rookie contract conversation. All that applies for those teams that you're talking about there. Moves like Von Miller, moves like bringing in A.J. Brown, teams like that are making their all-in moves. The Chiefs are in a little bit different situation in their reality. And I think that's great news for the Chiefs because the salary cap continues to go up in the coming years, and teams are going to look at starting to shed players. There's rumors that players like DeAndre Hopkins, Keenan Allen, great veteran wide receivers are going to be out there for the having due to salary cap costs. The Chiefs have already kind of fixed their cap a little bit. They've reset their cap, And yeah, you're absolutely right about kind of the disadvantage that the Chiefs have roster wise. Um, when we're analyzing teams like the 49ers or the Eagles, I always say, those are some of the best 2 through 53 rosters in the NFL. But I can't tell you how many times growing up as a millennial, as myself, I sat down and watched a team face Tom Brady or Peyton Manning and sat there and was like, okay, this is the better team. These are the better players. They're going to do it. They're going to beat them. And then at the end of the game, you go, well, shoot, they've got that guy and they've got that quarterback that makes that play. And, a lot of this goes to Brett Veach, the general manager, and Andy Reid as well. They've hit on players in the bottom part of the draft so successfully here in the last couple of years. You've got players like Jalen Watson at corner, Isaiah Pacheco, who are playing starter snaps, who are 7th-round rookies this year. That's incredible.
Yeah.
And then you go and look at how they completely rehauled their their offensive line in the offseason 2 years ago. They hit on Creed Humphrey in the 2nd round. They traded for Orlando Brown. That move was pretty ridiculed at the time. He's been a stalwart there at left tackle for them. They hit on players like Trey Smith out of Tennessee, who had a bunch of medical concerns coming in, and he's been a Pro Bowl level player. They fixed all that in one season.
Yeah.
So this story is as much about a roster construction and how they did it. Because if you go back and look at the guys who won the Super Bowl in 2019 to today, there's not a lot of those guys left. Yes, your Mahomes, your Kelsey, your Chris Jones, the superstars are still there, but they've been able to really kind of redo this whole roster in about 2 years. So I love this situation for Kansas City because they're here now, and I feel like they've got just as good of a chance or a better chance in the coming years as well to return here.
Now, Price, offensively for the Chiefs, they are top 5 in 4 out of the 5 major offensive statistical categories. They're first in total yards per game. They're first in passing yards per game, first in points per game, and second in third down completion percentage per game. And we know the best players on this Chiefs offense are Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce. But give me an X factor that the Eagles defense is going to have to keep an eye on in this Super Bowl matchup.
Well, one of the kind of biggest moves that has went under the radar for the Chiefs this year was the acquisition of Kadarius Toney. When that move happened at the trade deadline, it was kind of just looked as a future move. Toney has had kind of a tumultuous time in New York. He was a player that came out of Florida with a huge draft profile, came out, in the mid-20s for the Giants, and he looked like a malcontent there, and the injury history was an issue as well. When the Chiefs acquired him, they had McCole Hardman, who did a lot of the similar things that Kadarius Toney did. They stretch the field horizontally. They're the guys who can, they're as good with the ball in their hands as a runner, as a pass catcher, and both stretch the field vertically as well. However, the Chiefs have only had McCole Hardman and Kadarius Toney on the field together for about 30, 40 snaps, as McCole Hardman went down with an injury against the Titans right after they acquired Kadarius Toney. And then he gutted it out in the AFC Championship, McCole Hardman did, and left with that same injury again. So the Toney acquisition has been incredible for the Chiefs because he gives them something that they don't have anymore without Tyreek Hill and without McCole Hardman. And Andy loves his toys, and he loves guys whose their targets are predominantly behind the line of scrimmage. That's your bubble screens, your hands off, your reverses. And also, Kadarius Toney has very quickly become a really trusted target of Patrick Mahomes. If there's one guy who's going to go up and get a contested catch for the Chiefs, it's either Kelce or Toney. Some of the issues that came with Kadarius Toney from the Giants still linger. He did leave the AFC Championship game injured. He has had a hamstring injury this season. But when Kadarius Toney is on the field, his target share is incredible. The Chiefs look for him and look for him often when it comes to getting him the ball. If he is on the field for this whole game, I feel that that's a tremendous opportunity for the Chiefs, especially in the red zone, because he gives them something that they don't have. Juju Smith-Schuster, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, Sky Moore, Travis Kelce, those guys, their roles are defined, but Toney is the true wild card. So I feel like if we're sitting here on Monday talking about a Chiefs win, we're probably talking at least Kadarius Toney, at least one touchdown, and him being able to stretch the defenses horizontally. The Chiefs, I heard you talking about the pass rush of the Eagles. The Chiefs have faced some really great pass rushes this season. One of their best games of the season was a win over the 49ers where they were dominant. And there's this narrative going around that the 49ers didn't have their players for that game. They had pretty much everyone there. Nick Bosa was there. Fred Warner was in that game. Almost all their star players were there. That was when Jimmy G was still starting. And the Chiefs just had Nick Bosa in a nightmare because they just kept using McCole Hardman to stretch him horizontally and get him to hesitate off the edge. Yeah. And they really had a great game plan for him. So, Kadarius Toney is definitely an X factor in this game on offense for the Chiefs.
He's a contributor at Arrowhead Pride and co-host of the Kingdom Keys podcast. He's Price Carter. A couple more questions for you, Price, before I get you out of here, man. Defensively, the Chiefs up front got Chris Jones. They got Frank Clark. They got Carlos Dunlap as well. In their secondary, obviously, they got L'Jarius Sneed. You got Trent McDuffie as well. Give me an X factor for the Chiefs defensively and a player who's going to have to play well in order for them to win Sunday evening in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I wrote this week that there's a lot of things that have, and really the story for the offense and the defense have both been different, have been the same. The roster overall has gotten much more multiple. The Chiefs were a top heavy roster. You had Tyrann Mathieu, you had Frank Clark, Chris Jones. Those guys were still there, but the defense really relied on 3 or 4 players over and over again in seasons past. This year they've gotten much better depth along the defense and they've gotten much younger. The athleticism has popped off the screen from times. Plays that used to go for 50 yards now go for 25 yards. And the young corners that the Chiefs have. We talked about Jalen Watson, Joshua Williams. Trent McDuffie has been tremendous. The Chiefs traded up for him, and he's been pretty much since Trent McDuffie's been back in the lineup, the Chiefs have not allowed a 300-yard passer, and that includes facing Joe Burrow twice. They have been excellent in the secondary, but if there's one player that's going to have to play well for the Chiefs to win this game, it's going to be middle linebacker Nick Bolton. Nick Bolton is a pretty divisive player when it comes to Chiefs fans. Some Chiefs fans see the plays that he makes in the run game, especially in run blitzes, and he's a guy who played college here locally at Mizzou, and a lot of people really love Nick Bolton. However, Nick Bolton can struggle in pass coverage at time, and then if he gets an offensive lineman downfield on him, he really struggles to get off blocks. This is a game that is crucial for him to play well. Between the run option that the Eagles present with Jalen Hurts and the running backs, and then throw in a pretty strong tight end in Dallas Goedert, it's going to require a lot. Nick Bolton, to his credit, had one of his best games of the season against the Bengals. When they faced off in December against Cincinnati, the Bengals tortured him. They targeted him over and over and over again with running back Samaje Perine. They lost Hayden Hurst halfway through that game, and they were still torturing him with the backup tight end. So he's going to have a good game.
Now, Price, I know you're a Chiefs insider. You cover the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Philadelphia Eagles, they were 14-3 in the NFC. They were the number 1 seed in the NFC. Jalen Hurts had the best year so far in his young career this year, was the runner-up for NFL MVP, and the Eagles have a complete football team. But, Price, who do you have winning Super Bowl 57, and who is your Super Bowl MVP?
Well, I think when you look at this game, you got to ask yourself 2 questions. The first question is, do you think that the Eagles can score 27 points on the Chiefs defense? The Chiefs are 55-3 in the Patrick Mahomes era when a defense is held to 27 points or less against them. That's a tall order, I think, for the Eagles at this point. The Chiefs just held 2 very good offenses to 20 points each, respectively. Jalen Hurts' injury, I think that has limited him as a passer. And I think that, the Chiefs are going to make Jalen Hurts beat them in this game. His numbers against the blitz have not been great. Steve Spagnuolo is a notorious big game strategist. He has, shown time and time again that he can really dial up a defense to face any level of quarterback, even going back to that, famous Patriots game with him as the Giants defensive coordinator. They are going to stop the run. They are going to do their best. The Chiefs are a much better run defense than they're given credit for. They have the players to do it. It's going to be tough. There's great offensive line play there. But I personally feel that looking at this game, the cavern that is portrayed between the Eagles roster and the Chiefs roster is not nearly as great as some people make it out to be. The Super Bowl is one of those games where we take the last Super Bowl and compare it to the previous one. Oh, we saw the Chiefs against a good pass rush in Tampa, and they got murdered. But the Chiefs have 2 All-Pros on their offensive line and 2 more Pro Bowlers after that. The gap between those 2 rosters is not as much as people want it to be. While the Eagles are definitively the better roster, to me, this is one of those games that we are just reminded of, hey, coach and quarterback matter most of all. And we have a roster here with a lot of players who have played in the Super Bowl. They have the ability to come out and, game plan for 2 weeks. You've got a quarterback who this is the 3rd time on this stage for him. So that they're going to be able to come out and execute right away. There's no pregame jitters or anything like that. And I think ultimately this is one of those games that we'll look back that comes back to 3 or 4 key plays that are made by the better quarterback, the better offense, the better players, and Jalen Hurts isn't able to make those plays. We've not seen what Jalen Hurts looks like battle tested since he came back from this injury. The Eagles are what I've been calling the juiced up version of the 2019 Ravens. A tremendous offense, a tremendous defense, stars all over the field. But we've yet to see what they look like when they have to really come back in a game when passing is the only option. You know,
Yeah.
you rattled off some of Jalen Hurts' statistics, which he rightfully earned and played tremendous this year. But he is the trust fund baby of the NFL right now when it comes to quarterback. He's had the best schedule, the best coaching staff, the best roster, the best offensive line, the best defense. Everything has gone exactly to plan for them. What's it going to look like when they're down 10 points and it's 3rd and 19 and everyone's coming and everybody in the stadium knows that you're passing the ball?
Yeah.
Those are the questions that we've seen Patrick Mahomes answer in the biggest stage against the 49ers and other teams, and we've not seen Jalen Hurts answer those questions. Now, if he answers the question and you tell me the Chiefs lose this game in a tight one, I'd absolutely believe it, and there's no harm in that. It's a great roster, and I think the Eagles are going to be here for a long time, given how well they are set up in the future with draft capital and salary cap as wise.
Yeah.
But I've got the Chiefs winning 30-21. I think it's close, but I think in the end, the Chiefs pull away a little bit in the second half, simply because the Eagles haven't played a lot of second halves close. They pretty much roll out to the early lead and put it on cruise control. So Chiefs 30, Eagles 21.
Who's your Super Bowl MVP?
Well, it's hard. We're looking at it two ways. Sports betting just kind of became legal over here in this part of the country. I actually live on the Missouri side, but a lot of people live on the Kansas side. So if you're doing your betting odds, you're not going to really get very good odds on Patrick Mahomes or Travis Kelce or Chris Jones. Those are kind of the heavy favorites, right? I'm actually going to pick Travis Kelce. My reasoning is this: Mahomes has already got a Super Bowl MVP. He just won the league MVP. This is the Kelce Bowl. And I think Kansas City wants to reward what has been a stalwart of their team for a long time, and Travis Kelce. He's been here through some of the really hard times of this roster. He's been here through the Alex Smith era and through Patrick Mahomes. I think that they would love to reward him. And let's be honest, if the Chiefs are going to win, Travis Kelce's going to have a good day. And this whole offseason or postseason has really been about Kelce getting open no matter what. The Bengals had a sign all week that they slapped that said, "Did you get a hand on Kelce?" And guess what? He still got open. This guy gets open all the time. He's 33 years old, and he's still playing as one of the best players in the NFL, period.
Yeah, and the good thing for Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce's mother, Price, is no matter who wins this game, she wins because one of her two sons are going to be a Super Bowl champion this season. So shout out to Miss Kelce. So I know she's definitely happy about that. And also, I'm excited about seeing the brothers play against each other, Price. That's definitely going to be exciting for sure. And one more thing I want to add on what you said, I agree with you about the Eagles. Defensively, I think the Eagles got one of the best defenses in the NFL. But this year, they faced off against Jared Goff, Matt Ryan, Cooper Rush, Davis Mills, Kenny Pickett. The best quarterback they played all year is probably Aaron Rodgers in a down year and Dak Prescott. And Dak Prescott is not to be confused with being an elite quarterback. They ain't faced Patrick Mahomes. So that's going to be the biggest challenge for the Eagles defensively in this game, for real, for me.
Yeah, and when you look at Patrick Mahomes' stats against top 10 defenses, they are essentially the exact same as all of his other stats. He's not a player that has fattened up on bad defenses and then struggles against top defenses. And part of that is, we talk about the records that they have on the defensive line. Their defensive line is a 9-10 man rotation, and it is tremendous. And I do think that it is going to give the Chiefs fits, but QB sacks are partially a quarterback stat. And, the Eagles' offensive line gets brought up as the greatest offensive line that we've seen in a long time, perhaps ever, which is a little hyperbolic in my opinion. But the Eagles have given up more sacks than the Chiefs have, and that's not all just Gardner Minshew in 2 games. The Eagles have given up the 12th most sacks in the league this year, whereas the Chiefs are 30th. Patrick Mahomes is great at evading pressure. We know that the high ankle sprain is still going to be there. I'd expect him to be at about 80-85%, better than he was in the AFC Championship, but still not pure Patrick Mahomes. But in some ways, secretly, I think that might have been for the best in that AFC Championship game. Going back to last year against the Bengals when they lost, the Bengals were doing this thing where they were basically rushing 3 and then dropping the rest of their men into coverage and just daring the Chiefs to run the ball, and they couldn't do it. They didn't want to do it, and Mahomes didn't want to do it. And Mahomes was holding on to the ball way too long and trying to make things happen when he either should have taken the dump off or ran the ball himself or, put the ball in the hands of running back. The Chiefs are tremendous when they get the ball off quickly, and actually one of Patrick Mahomes' quickest games to throw in the past in his career was against the Eagles, where in 2021, where he threw the ball in about 2.3 seconds was the average, one of the quickest times in his career. So if the Chiefs are getting rid of the ball here, he's hitting his back foot, finding Kelsey, finding Tony, Juju, MVS. I think that spells good things for the Chiefs. Their defense just needs to, hold up their end of the bargain.
He's a contributor at the Arrowhead Pride and a co-host of the Kingdom Keys podcast. He is Price Carter. Price, he has the Chiefs beating the Eagles 30-21 and Travis Kelce taking home Super Bowl MVP. Price, I appreciate you coming on tonight. Let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
Yeah, man, you can find me at Arrowhead Price on Twitter. A little play on words there, writing for Arrowhead Pride. Arrowhead Pride, you can find us online at Twitter as well, at Arrowhead Pride. And you can find us at our website, arrowheadpride.com.
Price, I appreciate you joining Wise Guys tonight. And, man, enjoy the Super Bowl. I'll probably bring you on next week, man, and we can recap the Super Bowl.
Absolutely. We will see if I will be hungover or angry. It'll either be one of the two.
One of the two, for sure, man. Price, enjoy the game. Enjoy your weekend, sir.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.